Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. What you're about to hear isn't a story about betrayal. It's a story about silence, the kind that builds, thickens, and finally snaps. Let's begin. It started with a mug. A chipped, off-white coffee mug sitting in the sink, still half full, cold, untouched. The mug that was supposed to be mine. Every morning for 7 years, she handed me that mug with a sleepy smile and a lazy kiss on the shoulder. But that morning, it was already there. Abandoned. Like me, I stared at it longer than I should have. Not because I cared about the coffee, but because it was the first time something so small felt like a scream. I walked into the living room. She was on the couch in that giant hoodie she stole from me when we were still us. Her eyes were locked on her phone, thumbs moving fast, face blank. I opened my mouth, then shut it, then tried again. She sighed. What now? 3 words. One sigh? And suddenly I was holding back something I didn't even know was inside me. I don't know, I said. Just thought maybe we could talk. She laughed. Not a full laugh. Just the exhale people do when they're trying not to say what they're really thinking. Then she looked up, right at me, and dropped it. Don't come near me. No context. No warning. Just that. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I walked upstairs, grabbed my jacket, and left. Not just the house, everything. That was 19 days ago. She hasn't called. I haven't texted. But today I got a notification from our shared calendar. Therapist, 5 p.m. Canceled. And right after that, a voicemail from her sister. I played it. Oh, she's not okay. I don't know what you did or didn't do, but she's falling apart. Please just talk to her. So now I'm here. Not because I miss her. Not because I want her back. But because for the first time, I think she's realizing I was the only person who never left her. Until she told me to. I didn't listen to the whole voicemail at first. Just the first few words. She's not okay. And I paused it, closed my phone, left it face down on the table, and sat in silence for a while. There was a faint buzzing in my ears, the kind that comes when your nervous system is trying to convince your brain that you're still safe, that you're still human, that this isn't happening. I stared at the wall of my tiny rental room. One cheap painting, one broken blind, one flickering bulb that takes a minute to fully light up. It's the kind of place that smells like bleach and loneliness. I used to think I'd hate it. Now it feels honest. When I finally played the rest of the voicemail, I didn't expect to feel anything. But when her sister said, she hasn't eaten in 2 days, something twisted in my chest. Not pity, not longing, just confusion. Because the same woman who once stood in front of me and said, don't come near me, with a voice like ice, she was the one falling apart now? I hadn't told anyone what really happened. Not even my best friend Marcus, who kept inviting me to watch football as if buffalo wings could fill the crater in my chest. But the truth? It wasn't just about her words that day. It was the build-up. The months of being a ghost in my own marriage. The birthday she forgot. The dinner she didn't show up to. The way she started sleeping with her back turned every night. Not out of comfort, but out of habit. Like I wasn't there. You don't just snap and leave someone you love. You unravel quietly until one moment, one sentence, breaks the final thread. For me, it was, don't come near me. I remember driving that night with no real destination. I ended up parked outside the 24-hour pharmacy, staring at the neon sign flickering against my windshield. I thought about going in, buying something I didn't need, just to talk to another human being. Instead, I sat there for hours, watching strangers come and go. One guy walked out carrying flowers and cough drops. I imagined he had a sick girlfriend at home. Someone waiting. Someone worth coming near. I had no one. At least, that's what I thought. Until the second voicemail came in. This time, it wasn't her sister. It was her. Her voice was not the same. I mean that literally. She sounded smaller. Slower. Like every syllable was wrapped in hesitation. This wasn't the woman who used to throw car keys when she was mad or talk over me in therapy sessions because I wasn't getting to the point fast enough. This voice was different. I played the message on speaker, pacing the cracked linoleum floor of my temporary apartment like a man hearing a ghost. Elwood, I know I don't deserve this. I know I don't even have the right to call you. But I can't sleep. I can't eat. I sit on the edge of the bed every night waiting for the door to open. I didn't know I could feel this hollow. She paused. I could hear her breathing through the receiver. I don't know what I was thinking, or not thinking, or why I said that to you, but I didn't mean it. I was scared. Of myself, maybe. of losing you. And then, I lost you. I just need to see you, or hear you, or know you're alive and not hating me. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I didn't feel vindicated or heartbroken. What I felt was something I couldn't name, like my body knew I'd been waiting for her to break before I even admitted it to myself. I didn't respond. Instead, I drove to our old house. I still had a key. My name was still on the mortgage. The lawn was overgrown, newspapers stacked by the porch, like time had stopped inside. I unlocked the door and immediately regretted it. The house smelled like wine and reheated shame. The living room was a mess, not chaotic, just abandoned. Laundry in half-folded piles. A single sandal near the stairs. The photo of us at Mount Rainier, cracked and face down on the floor. The bedroom door was closed. I didn't open it. Instead, I walked into the kitchen. The mug was still there. Same one. Same cold coffee. Still half full or half empty, depending on how poetic you're feeling. But now it had grown a rim of mold. I reached for it, then stopped. My hand hovered in the air like I needed permission from a past version of myself just to pick up the damn thing. That's when I saw the note. Folded, tucked under the coffee maker. My name on the front. My full name, Elwood Price, written in her handwriting, the same way she wrote it in our wedding vows. I opened it, and what she wrote inside changed everything I thought I understood about what went wrong. I unfolded the paper slowly, almost afraid it would disintegrate in my hands. The first line wasn't a greeting. No, dear Elwood. No, I'm sorry. No date. Just a sentence scribbled across the top, like it had clawed its way out of her brain in one long breath. I don't know why I kissed him back. I froze. My stomach sank, and I scanned the rest of the page like it might explain everything in the next 5 seconds. But it didn't. It got worse. She wrote about him like I already knew who he was. Like this was a continuation of a conversation I'd never been invited into. There was no name, just vague references. He made me feel seen again, and it wasn't supposed to be anything real, but then it got complicated. She wrote that she didn't plan to let it go that far, that it started as flirting, that it felt harmless. And then, that one night, after a work dinner, she kissed him, outside his car, in the rain. It was like reading a memory I was never part of. I sat down on the cold tile floor of our kitchen and reread the paragraph 5 times. She said she regretted it immediately, that she told him it was a mistake. But then she wrote something that made my hands shake. But I didn't stop him when he came back the next night. So it wasn't just a kiss. And she hadn't just slipped. She chose to keep slipping. I didn't finish the letter right away. I folded it, shoved it into my pocket, and stood up. I needed to breathe. The walls of the kitchen felt too close, too silent, like they knew everything before I did. I stepped out onto the back porch and stared into the yard I used to mow every Saturday. The swing set I built by hand still stood in the corner, the rope frayed, one of the seats missing. Just like us. All this time I thought her coldness had no source. That it was boredom, exhaustion, stress, burnout, anything but betrayal. But now I knew. The way she recoiled when I walked into a room. The way she avoided eye contact when she said, "I love you," like it was a task. It wasn't confusion. It wasn't distance. It was guilt. And maybe that was the worst part. The realization that she let me twist myself into knots trying to fix what she had already broken. Silently. Without ever letting me know the truth. I should have left right then. But I didn't. Because at the bottom of that letter, there was a final sentence. It was short. A whisper on paper. But it hit harder than everything else. There's something you don't know about the night you left. I sat on the porch for what felt like hours, that final line of the letter echoing in my head like a riddle. There's something you don't know about the night you left. I couldn't tell if it was a warning or an invitation. Eventually, I went back inside, heart pounding like I was breaking into my own life. I unfolded the letter again, hands trembling, and kept reading. The rest wasn't long, but every word dug in deeper. She wrote, "After I told you not to come near me, I thought you'd shout. I thought you'd demand an explanation. I was ready to scream back. But you didn't. You just left. And when the door clicked shut, I stood there frozen. Then he came in. I stopped breathing. Not metaphorically. I actually held my breath. Because until that moment, I hadn't let myself imagine him in my house. On my floors. Breathing my air. The next part of the letter confirmed what I was afraid to even guess. I told him you were gone. He didn't hesitate. He walked in like he belonged. Like you never did. I read that line 3 times, each time feeling it twist tighter in my gut. So, while I was driving through the city trying to hold myself together, while I was sitting in a motel room staring at a water-stained ceiling wondering if I was the one who failed, she had invited him in. He was already there. I always imagined betrayal as this dramatic moment. Screaming, slamming doors, tears. But this was quiet, surgical, calculated. She let me walk out and use the empty space I left behind as a doorway for someone else. And the worst part? She tried to make it sound like my absence gave her permission. I wanted to punch something. Not someone, I'm not that guy. But anything. A wall. A mirror. Myself, maybe. For not seeing it. For not confronting it. For being the kind of man who walks away to keep the peace, without realizing the war had already been lost. I threw the letter into the sink. But I couldn't leave. Because now I had questions. Real ones. Not just the why or when, but the who. Who was this man who entered my home like it was his the second I disappeared? And why, after everything, was she falling apart now? I didn't want to call her. But I did something worse. I checked the old iPad we used to share. She never disconnected her messages from it. I'd forgotten it was even still on the Wi-Fi. And that's when I saw it. A text from him, just 2 days ago. 6 words. He doesn't know, does he? The thread was long. Too long. I scrolled past dates that made my stomach flip. Messages sent during weekends she claimed to be visiting her mother. Weekdays she said she had late meetings. And even our anniversary, when she told me she had food poisoning and couldn't go out. But it wasn't the lies that hit the hardest. It was the tone. She didn't sound like someone being manipulated or pressured. She sounded alive. The kind of alive I hadn't seen in her eyes for years. They had jokes, codes, nicknames. One message read, "Made it through another dinner pretending to care about his day. You better reward me tomorrow." Followed by a winking emoji and something I'll never repeat out loud. I kept scrolling. My hands were shaking, but I couldn't stop. The messages were time-stamped, detailed, filled with inside jokes and late-night confessions. There was one from months ago that said, "He still thinks we're just going through a rough patch. I almost feel bad sometimes." Almost. And then, the latest one. 2 days ago. Him. He doesn't know, does he? Her reply came 30 minutes later. No. And he won't. He left. That's what he's good at. I dropped the iPad. I actually dropped it. It hit the counter, clattered to the floor, and cracked. I didn't even care. So that was it. In her eyes, I wasn't the man who stayed through the worst years of our marriage. I wasn't the one who made her coffee every morning, remembered her mother's birthday when she didn't, or held her hand at the hospital when she thought she was miscarrying. No, I was just the man who left. That was the headline she rewrote in her mind, so she could sleep next to her guilt and call it freedom. I sat down at the kitchen table, the one we bought together at that flea market in Maryland, and refinished with our bare hands. I stared at the groove where she accidentally carved a line too deep with the sander. I used to think it gave the table character. Now it just looked like damage. I don't know how long I sat there before I realized the iPad was buzzing again. A new message. From him. "Why don't you just tell him already? He deserves to know. You said you would." I blinked. Heart pounding. She hadn't replied yet. Then it came. 3 dots. Then a single sentence. "Because if he finds out, it's over." I didn't know what it meant. Our marriage? Her affair? The lie she was still holding on to. I was done reading. But I wasn't done acting. I took photos of the messages. Every single one. I didn't know what I'd do with them yet, but I needed proof. Not for revenge. Not even for closure. Just so I could look myself in the mirror and say, "You're not crazy. It really happened." But then I noticed something else. An email notification had popped up on the iPad, sent that very morning. The subject line stopped me cold. "Pregnancy results, confidential." My thumb hovered over the notification like touching it might electrocute me. I didn't want to know. I already had enough. I'd seen the messages. I'd read the letter. I'd learned that while I was quietly breaking, she was loudly moving on. But there's something about the word pregnancy that hits different. It cuts past betrayal. It goes primal. Legacy. Blood. Family. A word that doesn't belong in an inbox, and definitely not tied to someone I trusted with my life. I tapped it. It was from a private medical lab. She'd set up an account under her maiden name. I only knew it was hers because of the birthday listed in the email. Same day she once made me drive 3 hours to a beach she saw in a movie, just to eat overpriced seafood and drink canned cocktails. That birthday. That woman. The message was short, sterile, clinical. Subject, pregnancy results, confidential. Dear Ms. Thorne, your blood test results confirm a positive pregnancy. Estimated gestational age, 7 weeks. Further confirmation by ultrasound is advised. Please reach out to your provider to schedule follow-up care. Regards, Ridgeway Women's Health. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. 7 weeks. I counted backwards. That was the week she told me she was at a conference in Denver. The week she sent me a selfie from a hotel bed with a background that didn't match anything I could find online. I had even joked about it. You sure you're not hiding from me? She laughed. She laughed. And now this. Pregnant. And not mine. It couldn't be. We hadn't been intimate in over 3 months. Not even a kiss. She barely looked me in the eye. We were sharing air and bills, not a bed. I stood up, heart racing, stomach twisting, and walked out of the house with the iPad in hand. I didn't know where I was going. I just needed to not be there. The walls were closing in, and every memory was poisoned now. The anniversary photos on the hallway wall. The fridge magnet from our trip to Maine. Even the dent in the banister from when we tried to move that old couch upstairs. None of it felt like home anymore. I ended up in my car, parked 3 blocks away, hands gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing tethering me to the planet. I didn't cry. I just stared straight ahead at nothing, while the world outside kept moving like it didn't just end. There's a special kind of silence that happens when you realize your life was a lie. Not all at once, but piece by piece. And what's worse, she still hadn't told me. She wrote that letter, sure. She left voicemails. She cried to her sister. But even now, even after pushing me out of the house, she hadn't had the decency to tell me she was carrying someone else's child. She was still trying to control the story. But now, I had all the pieces. The only thing left was what I'd do with them. And by morning, I made my decision. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in my car with the engine off and the world quiet, watching the sky turn from black to gray. I kept playing the same question in my head. What's the right way to end a story like this? I had all the evidence. The screenshots, the letter, the pregnancy confirmation. I could have sent it to her family, our friends, posted it on Facebook, printed it out, and taped it to her office door. But somehow, that felt too small, too reactive, like letting her story still decide mine. I didn't want revenge. I wanted release. So I went back to the house one last time. It was early, the street still half asleep. I let myself in quietly. She wasn't home. Maybe she'd stayed with him. Maybe she was out driving, trying to make sense of the chaos she created. I didn't care. I placed the letter back where I found it. Then I set the iPad beside it, locked, but filled with everything. On top, I left a note. Just one sentence, written in the same shaky hand she used on hers. Now you know that I know. I didn't yell. I didn't call. I didn't slam a door. I simply walked out. For the final time. Then I drove 3 hours north, to a small cabin my uncle left me in his will years ago. I'd never been. It always felt like a someday thing. But that day, I made it today. It's quiet here. Peaceful in a way I forgot existed. I read again. I walked trails. I cooked badly. And I breathe without looking over my shoulder. The silence no longer feels like punishment. It feels like clarity. As for her, she called. She texted. She emailed. But I didn't respond. She sent one final message last week. Please, I need to talk to you. I read it, then deleted it. She had her chances. She chose her path. And I finally chose mine. So here I am, months later, telling my story not to shame her, but to remind anyone listening that you don't have to explode to escape. Sometimes, walking away quietly is the most powerful thing you can do. I didn't destroy her. I didn't drag her down. I just left, and she's been unraveling ever since. But me? I've never felt lighter. That's the end of my story. If you've ever walked away from something toxic, not to hurt them, but to heal yourself, drop your experience in the comments. What was the moment you finally let go? You're watching Reddit Confessions, where the loudest victories sometimes happen in silence. Thanks for sticking with me. I'm okay now. I really am.